They call you the N-word in the kitchen. They just poisoned your meal. It's funny how 12 words, scrawled in shaky blue ink on a paper napkin, can feel like a sledgehammer to the ribs, right in the middle of the prettiest restaurant in Savannah. That napkin didn't just shatter my appetite. It detonated the myth of dignity that room was built on, sliced through $900 steaks, and cut straight to the bone of who I am and what I stand for. It's one thing to fight in boardrooms, wrangle with Wall Street sharks, watch men worth billions fold under the heat of a negotiation, but what do you do when the war comes straight to your plate, dressed up like dinner, served with a side of casual cruelty? Yeah, that happened. Let me back up a sec, because if you've ever sat in a room full of people pretending not to see what's right in front of them, you already know nothing's more dangerous than silence. That night, I wasn't Julian Vance, CEO. I wasn't the guy who signs the paychecks. I was just a black man in a gray hoodie, shoes scuffed to hell, eating alone in my own restaurant, undercover because whispers had started crawling up the chain, making their way to my penthouse office whispers about the veranda, this crown jewel of my empire that welcomed black folks with bleachy smiles and hate in the kitchen. I've never been one for delegating when things get ugly. No suits, no clipboard, no security. Just me walking through the heavy doors into a place that looked like it had never met a real problem it couldn't sweep under the rug. Right from the jump, I knew. The hostess gave me a look like I'd tracked mud on her grandmother's silk carpet, then stashed me by the kitchen doors at a table fit for a ghost. You ever get that feeling you're not just unwanted, but invisible? I sat there 17 minutes. The peacock sommelier skipped me like I was part of the wallpaper. The whole room was a stage for the old Southern play, white faces laughing, black faces hustling, everyone else performing their part. But that napkin, that was real. The waitress who brought it her name tag said Sarah, she moved like she'd learned to be invisible for survival, not by choice. Worn shoes, tired eyes, but this hard spark underneath it all. When our eyes met, there was a flash of recognition, not just I see you, but I know you see me. She didn't ask for help, didn't break, just handed over the evidence, folded and damning, like passing a match in a room full of gasoline. And let me tell you, I'd spent my life calculating odds, betting on markets, building a $10 billion house of cards out of the red dirt I grew up on, but none of that prepares you for the moment when somebody risks it all on you. When Sarah slid that napkin across the table, she didn't just give me proof. She handed me the keys to the kingdom and maybe the responsibility to burn it down. You want to know the worst thing I've ever seen on the job? It wasn't hostile takeovers or boardroom betrayals. It was the kind of everyday hate that's woven so tightly into the fabric. Half the people in the room don't even see it anymore. But Sarah did. She saw it in every Tuesday lunch shift she got stuck with, every side eye from management, every time she got sent to the back section or the tip got forgotten. She saw it when the chef, this overhyped bully named Du Bois, made jokes about ghetto palates, when busboys grinned and looked the other way. She saw it every time someone like me showed up and got treated like a problem to be solved, not a person to be served. That night, I ordered the Savannah Kings cut 50 ounces of arrogance on a plate, and Sarah's hands shook as she punched in the order, because she knew the unwritten rules. People like me, at tables like mine, don't get to eat like that unless we prove we can pay up front. Harrington, the manager, was watching her like a hawk, ready to take the cost of my meal straight out of her paycheck if I so much as blinked wrong. But Sarah? She broke protocol. She didn't ask for my card. She keyed in the order, swiped her badge, and took a leap. And that's when the show in the kitchen started. I'd love to tell you I was shocked, but I've seen too much. Du Bois, this celebrity chef, took one look at my steak and made it clear he thought I was either a rapper or a drug dealer. Then, with his crew watching, he spat right on the meat, flipped it, and laughed. Special seasoning, he said. The kitchen laughed with him, not because it was funny, but because hate's contagious and no one wants to be the first to call out. Sarah saw it all. She stood by the pass, hands trembling, and made her decision. The words she wrote, those 12 frantic, looping words, weren't just a warning. They were a confession, a cry for help, a dare. She slipped me the napkin, delivered the steak, and walked away, hoping I'd know what to do with it. I did. I didn't touch the food. I didn't make a scene. I pulled out a burner phone, sent a code black message to my security team in Atlanta. By the time I stood to leave, Harrington was already sniffing blood, ready to confront me, play the tough guy in front of his staff. We went into his office, and I dropped the mask. "Show me the kitchen cameras," I said. The man stuttered, lied, tried to tell me the system glitches. When I pressed, the footage for the crucial 2 minutes was gone wiped clean, like it never happened. So I told him who I was. The owner. The guy who pays his salary. The one who'd decide whether his career survived the next 24 hours. Then I fired him on the spot, walked out, and left my team to handle the rest. You want a twist? Here's one. My security chief, David, a guy who's seen every dirty trick in the book, called me an hour later, said the idiots in the kitchen had deleted the local video, but forgot the mandatory cloud backup. We had everything in high def. The spit, the laughter, the racial slurs, the jokes, even weeks of footage showing the same sick pattern. Black families humiliated. Food tampered with. Cold plates reheated and doused in salt. I had enough evidence to scorch the earth. So that's what I did. Legal complaints, PR statements, civil rights charges. I watched the city from my hotel room, thinking about my grandfather who worked himself to death so I could have a shot at dignity. Thinking about Sarah, about all the people who eat shit every day because they have to, about all the people who pretend not to see because it's easier. The next morning, Sarah came in expecting to be fired. Instead, she was ushered into my office, me in a suit this time, no hoodie. "You're not fired," I told her. "You're the only one I'm sure should keep her job." And I offered her a choice: walk away with her student loans paid, a check to set her family up for life, or stay, help me rebuild, become director of culture and community engagement with the power to change the game for good. She asked if I trusted her, and I said, "I already trusted you with my life. This is the easy part." That day, the veranda stopped being a restaurant and became ground zero for justice. My lawyers and PR team set up camp. By lunchtime, the FBI's Civil Rights Division had arrested Chef Du Bois, his sous chef, and Harrington. Cameras rolled as I stepped onto the front steps, told the world the ugly truth. "This isn't a bad apple story," I said. "It's a poisoned root system, and the darkness ends today." Then I handed the mic to Sarah, because the future should belong to people brave enough to light the match. She didn't make it about blame. She told her story, rolled out new rules, built a reporting system where silence was no longer the only safe choice. She hired a new head chef, promoted people who'd been overlooked, made the place look like a city it served. She went back to school at night. She became a voice. And let me tell you, there's nothing more powerful than a woman with a conscience and nothing left to lose. It wasn't the FBI or the lawsuits that brought the veranda down. It was one napkin, one moment of courage, one person saying enough. And yeah, we rebuilt. We tore out the rot, sent the ugly portraits to a museum, and turned the place into something that served dignity as much as food. So, what do you do with a story like that? Maybe you're thinking, that's wild, but it could never happen here. Or maybe you're remembering the last time you saw something rotten and kept your mouth shut. But the real question is, what would you write on your napkin if you had the guts? Drop your thoughts below. Share your story. Hit that like button if you believe justice still matters. And if you want more stories where people fight back with everything they've got, stick around. Because sometimes revolutions don't start with a bang. Sometimes they start with a whisper. And sometimes all it takes is the truth, written in blue ink, to set the world on fire.